Alright guys, so the 2025 Formula 1 grid is now set. We know the 20 drivers and we know which 10 teams they are going to be competing for. But I wanted to have a look at the rookies, the inexperienced drivers, the drivers that we don't know very well. Some people won't have even seen these drivers in action at all because they've never competed in Formula 1 at all. So there's a few different ways to define these rookies. Some people might say, well, you're only a rookie if you can have actually never competed in a Grand Prix weekend before. For me, I'm going to open this up to any driver that has not competed a full season in Formula 1, and I'll explain what I mean and why I'm actually going to set that as the criteria for this, just because it opens up things a bit more. That means in total for me there are 6 rookies in the field next year. Some people might say there's 5, some people might even say there's only 3, but let's just get into this, guys, because at the end of the day, a few people have been asking recently, a few people have been suggesting, why don't you go through the rookies in the 2025 grid and say which one will be the most successful? And again, to answer that question, there's a few different ways you can actually interpret it, really. So I'll explain what I mean with that here, guys. So there's a bit of a preview to the 2025 rookies and which one I think will actually be the best next year. So there are 3 outright rookies in the field for 2025. Now these are guys that have never competed in a Grand Prix weekend before. These being, of course, Gabriel Bortoleto, who will be competing for Sauber, Kimi Antonelli, who will be competing for Mercedes, and also Isaac Hadjar, who will be in the Racing Bull. There are 2 more on top of this as well. Some guys who have only made, well, in Jack Doohan's case, a one-off appearance for Alpine at the back end of 2024, and Ollie Behrman, who's made an appearance for Ferrari and 2 appearances for Haas before. Some people might not consider him a rookie. I would personally, because at the end of the day, he's never competed in a full season, and all those 3 appearances have effectively been 3 off appearances, not 3 one-off appearances. That's the way to phrase it. Obviously, coming in for Saudi Arabia and Ferrari for signs as a surgery and recovering from that. Kevin Magnussen's ban at Haas, and then Kevin Magnussen also being ill in Brazil and having to basically be the super sub 3 times. So yeah, interesting stuff there with Ollie Behrman. And I would also throw in Liam Lawson as well. Now he's competed in 11 Grand Prix, but these days that is less than half a season. He's never competed in a full season. He's never started a season actually at a Formula 1 team. He has come in to replace Nick De Vries, well, Ricciardo twice effectively, actually, because he was the replacement for Ricciardo, who was the replacement for Nick De Vries in 2025 at AlphaTauri, as it was then. Or was it Racing Bulls? No, it was AlphaTauri. That was the last season of AlphaTauri, the second Red Bull team. He'll be in the top Red Bull team, though, this season. So I'll just go into who I think will actually do best in this. Now, again, depending on how you define things, the most successful driver might be the driver that gets the most points, the most podiums, and potentially maybe even a win. And for me, in that sense, just because of the competitiveness of the cars and because of where those cars are on the grid in 24, I don't expect them to change too much going into 25 in terms of their overall performance, because obviously we're looking towards 26 now, where there's the big engine regulation change, the big aerodynamic regulation change as well. That will all factor into things, and I don't expect the order to change too much. So basically, if you were one of the top 4 teams in 2024, I'd expect you to be one of the top 4 teams in 2025, and therefore have a realistic shot of a podium and at least an outside shot of a victory. And of course, because of where these teams are, I would say that Kimi Antonelli and Liam Lawson are the most likely drivers to actually get some podiums and maybe even a victory in 2025. Now, given the pace of the cars, I would say Mercedes and Red Bull are on a relatively even playing field at the end of the season. Both those teams were challenging for podiums. I might even argue that the Mercedes was quicker overall. It's only in the hands of Max Verstappen that Red Bull was competitive. Obviously in Sergio Perez's hands it was not, hence why Lawson is in the Red Bull for next year. And with that in mind, I would probably say the guy out of them that's more likely to score more points potentially is Kimi Antonelli, and it's a bit of a bold call, I know. Lawson is more experienced, but I would say that Red Bull is not looking that good. I feel like it's going to take time for Lawson to get used to the car as well. Probably the same for Antonelli, in fairness, but he has had a bit more testing experience. He has competed in some free practice sessions for them. I don't know how much testing that Lawson's actually done in the Red Bull. I know he's been in the RB for some time, so it's going to be close between them two. It's got to be one of those two, but I will stick my neck out and say that Antonelli will perform better in terms of points overall than Lawson. But again, Lawson's going to have, he could well have a better car. It's all about whether Red Bull or Mercedes develop their car better in the off-season. And for me, I'm going to back Mercedes to do that. Now, in terms of their overall talent, in terms of their outright performance, you know, taking the car aside, who will perform best? Who will be the best out of these guys in terms of their maturity, in terms of their consistency? Well, I'm going to give a mention to Gabriel Bortoleto in this one. Now, I expect Sauber to probably have the worst car on the grid in 2025. They had a little uptick in performance overall towards the end of 24, but I still expect them to be down there at the bottom. I feel like they'll probably still finish bottom of the constructors. 26 is a big opportunity for them to improve, of course, but I don't see them. I see them really struggling to score points. But for me, I think Bortoleto might well be the most consistent. And you might well think, well, at the end of the day, it's not going to, you know, it's not going to be that much of a challenge. You just got to basically make up the numbers. And that's a very negative way to look at things. You know, in your first season of Grand Prix racing, if you're performing consistently, getting the car to the finish, not making, you know, that many big mistakes, then you're gonna do all right, and that's all you can really ask for. Bortoleto's going to have Nico Hülkenberg as a teammate. I expect Hulk to, no disrespect to Bortoleto, but Hulk has had an incredible year this year. I expect Hülkenberg to be comfortably better than Bortoleto, and everybody would expect that. You know, Hulk's been in Formula 1 since 2010. By contrast, you know, Bortoleto was about 4 years old at that time when he made his F1 debut. So the age gap is massive between those two. So I think Bortoleto will do quite well in that sense. But again, it depends on how you define things. How are these people going to do compared to their teammates? And that's the second one I'm going to go for. Who's going to do best compared to the teammate? Because the only true comparison of Grand Prix driver is with your teammate. They've got the same machinery, the same opportunities effectively, and who's going to do best? Well, certainly not Liam Lawson. He's going up against Max Verstappen. Verstappen, I expect to beat him quite comfortably. Jack Doohan going up against Pierre Gasly. Gasly, I think, is an incredible season. So I think he's going to struggle quite a bit there compared to Gasly. Again, you'd expect this as a rookie. Hadjar, I mean, I've done a video explaining why I think that Yuki Tsunoda is doing very well, and I think he could well stake a claim to get out of the Red Bull organisation and get a different Formula 1 drive. So I expect Hadjar to struggle a little bit compared to Tsunoda. Antonelli, I mean, he could be one. I could see him maybe challenging George Russell overall for a season, but I think George Russell is really underrated. He did beat Hamilton quite comfortably this season. There was reasons for that, of course, and I've said why many times on this channel, but, you know, I'd expect Russell to be on a high going into 25. Bortoleto already established that. I expect Holt to be in quite comfortably. So for me, that really leaves Behrman and Antonelli. Now, for me, personally, I'm going to say I don't rate Esteban Ocon. I really don't. There's something about that guy, and I just feel like he turns up for 1 or 2 races a season, gets an incredible landmark result like he did in Brazil this season, like he did at Hungary back in 21 when he got his only ever win. Yes, these are impressive performances, but consistently throughout the season, for me, Ocon was absolutely outperformed, incredibly so, by Pierre Gasly. Gasly being a great driver, but Ocon, for me, by F1 standards, is distinctly average. I think he's a massive downgrade on Hülkenberg, and I don't feel like he's much better than Magnussen, really. I mean, for me personally, I probably would have kept K-Mag over him. Controversial opinion, but I would have kept Kevin Magnussen rather than go for Esteban Ocon. So for me, compared to the teammates, I would back Behrman to do the best. I can see him beating Ocon over the course of a season. All the other guys, it's either going to be nigh on impossible or difficult. I think Antonelli is probably going to be the closest to his teammate in these aside from Behrman, but I think over the course of a season, I feel like Russell would probably have the measure of him. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. I think in terms of results, I am personally going to back Antonelli to do the best overall, closely followed by Liam Lawson. And compared to their teammates, I would expect Behrman to impress the most. I think he's the most likely to beat his teammate over the course of a season. And then Antonelli as well, I would say, will be closest-ish second, you know. So yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. I mean, overall, these are all really impressive rookies. You know, Hadjar, I think he's incredible on his day for sure. Antonelli is fantastic and he's so young. Same with Bortoleto. I've seen all these guys in F2 or in their performances, their cameo appearances in Formula 1, and I think they're all brilliant, and I'm really excited to see them. This is a fantastic crop of young rookies that are entering the sport. So yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Who is going to be the most impressive rookie in 2025? I want to hear your thoughts. Like, share, comment, subscribe. ring the bell as well, and we'll see you very soon, guys. Have a good one, and of course, keep it tuned to the F1 Chronicle as well over this Christmas period and into New Year. The F1 might have stopped, but we're going to keep going, and that's not going to change. So yeah, see you soon, and thanks for all your support.